What's happening, everyone, and welcome back to Park Lane Podcast with me, Luke, and this week, a very special guest jumping in as a super sub. It's Marlon from Southview Coys. How you doing, mate?
I am very, very good, mate. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good, mate. I'm good. Thank you so much for jumping on, mate. I really do appreciate it.
No problem.
You're like that Lucas Moura in Champions League style, coming in, injured players, you're coming in, and you're absolutely bossing it. Love it.
So I'll be good for one game and that's it.
yeah, exactly, mate. And then we'll just try and convert you to a right wing back, and then you'll never play again. Anyway, before we get into it, for those of you that know the channel, don't forget to hit the subscribe button. Don't forget to like the video if you like it, and just keep your comments coming in. Everybody that comments, everybody that chats with us, we really do appreciate it. It does help us answer your questions. So, right, let's get straight into it. Okay, let's talk. The thing that no one wants to talk about it, the Voldemort of Tottenham Hotspur, and that's the North London derby last week. Do you know what? Just at the point that I got away from it, mate, and just the point that I'd got it out of my brain and moved on. What are your thoughts a week later, after that game?
So I have to admit, at the time, I was pissed off as like everybody else was. Yeah. It was. I hate losing to Arsenal, even though I should expect it by now. I was proper, but I've had a week to think about it. Obviously, we've had another game in between as well.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, I think I got caught up in everybody's confidence because we had a lot of people going, "Oh, we're gonna win, we're gonna do this. We've got Antonio Conte." Even though when I saw Antonio's Conte at the Emirates were poor as well, I was like, "Well, that's two things going against us. His poor record and our poor record." But we have to just take into consideration we're gonna go to the Emirates any time with any team. We probably could be league champions. We could be anything. We're just not gonna win. I don't know what it is. We just don't turn up, and I'm getting used to it now. I hate it, but I'm getting used to it. And I expect the same in January, where we'll turn up and they won't. And I'm hoping that happens, but they are a very good side, and that's the unfortunate thing right now. I think that's it's for us Spurs fans right now. That's where most of the complaints come from. If Arsenal wasn't doing so well, no one would be complaining about our situation right now. We'd all be just taking it on the chin.
No, I get you. It is difficult. Looking, as you say, probably I'm the same as you. Do you know what I mean? Getting caught up in the hype before the game, getting caught up in everything. But if you look at it statistically and look at our record at the Emirates, what is it with us, and our record? It seems like the same against Chelsea. Do you know what I mean? It seems like Stamford Bridge, always seems to be the way. And it doesn't matter whether you change the players, whether you change the staff. Some people will say, "Oh, well, the only thing that hasn't changed is the board. The board don't win and lose games." Do you know what I mean? At the end of the day.
So,
what is it that keeps that?
It's the mentality around the club, and that's one thing that will never change, because no matter what a club try and do, they always employ the same people, and when we all go in there and it's like, here we go. Honestly, you got to think we've had Gareth Bale, Luke and Wynnie, and them sort of players, but it always seems to be, no matter what manager we have, and it's not just this board, it's the previous board as well. The mentality around the club is, Stamford Bridge has never been a good hunting ground, and it's only ever since the Premier League started to happen. But the Emirates, Anfield, and Old Trafford are just four grounds we just don't travel well to. I think our record at Anfield is the worst out of any top side. So that's a lot to go by, that other clubs can go there and do well. But until the mentality changes around the club, and Conte's trying it. Conte's trying to change that mentality, but I don't think he's going to be here long enough to change it completely. And we need probably, and this is going to sound really weird, the Mourinho's and the Conte's attitude is what we need. To be honest, I was very shocked when we lost under Mourinho there, because I thought, but again, it's the club mentality that always takes over. and it's always going to.
How does that? Okay, so for those that kind of like maybe a bit naive to it, sorry to cut you off. Like, how does a leadership from a board level soak all the way down to a pitch side level through a coaching staff, through a manager, to different players? So, you know what I mean? How does that soak down? Like, that's really like.
So I've always been like, you know what? If the CEO has a positive attitude and he mentally he's got his team strong, they'll do anything for him. And people will be like, what do you mean by that? You know, the youth team players, you know, it even comes through them. You know, when they go to Arsenal, they know it's a big game. They know straight away that this is the game of all games. But Arsenal seem to have a different attitude. Like, you've got to remember, Arsenal, as a league side, Arsenal have been worse than Spurs the last 7-8 years. But yet, when it comes to that North London derby day at the Emirates, they pull it off. And even under Pochettino, when we, you know, there was a couple of times we had the lead and we let in goals in the last minute.
Yeah.
That wouldn't happen to Spurs. It just is a mental block when it comes to playing Arsenal at the Emirates. And it's an away problem for Spurs. It's not just the Emirates, it's an away problem throughout. And I think until you get someone who can run the club in a way that they say, we're a big club, we are better than the Uniteds, we are better than the Liverpool, and has the ambition, then we'll move forward. And I think that's now the biggest problem. I think it is at board level, and it does filter down. And a lot of people are like, well, that makes no sense. But it does, because they're the ones who pick the coaches, they're the ones who pick the managers. And Daniel Levy has a big impact on everything that goes on in that club. And people are like, but you can't blame him. But there's certain aspects about the way the club is run and certain things like that where you can go, yeah, you can. You can blame him. Yeah, he's not the one out on the pitch, but if the mentality around the club, because it won't be, you got to think, it'd be all the people that work there, the staff and everything like that. They'll have the same mentality and it will breathe into the players. And if I'm completely honest, us fans don't help either.
Yeah, no, like, I think, do you know what? I think you're 100% right. And I think I'm not a big Levy out person, right? Because I think if we look at, like, you know, how the club was run prior to Levy and Enoch, you know, buying Spurs, and before that, you know, we were half the club we are now, you know, statistically and position-wise in the league and everything like that, and how we've been. But we're still a long way off in terms of that. And the amount of times that I've tried to blame players, coaches, you know, other people like that, it's racking my brains now to wonder. And it has started making me think, do you know what? Like, if we had a big owner, you know, let's just use the City as an example, right? Would it be the CEOs that are changing that, or would it be their bank balances that are changing that? It's really interesting. Well,
Chelsea will be the most interesting part to what we're both saying in both sense. Because for me, I want Levy gone. I want him gone. I don't want Enoch gone. And then people be like, what are you talking about? Again, when I say I don't want Enoch gone, I feel like Enoch will put the money up. I've always felt like they will put the money up. And yes, I do understand Levy's taking us forward, but I always feel like at the same time, he's held us back. And it's not, anytime a manager leaves, they always have a problem with Levy. And it's going to be very, very interesting with the Paratici and the whole, when he leaves and when Conte, because Conte is going to bear all. When Conte leaves, we're going to find out some things. And again, it'll be another manager blaming the board. And I completely understand the way Levy wants to run the club. But at the same time, if you want to be in the Champions League, buy Champions League quality players.
Yeah.
And that's my only gripe, is that every time we've made the Champions League, we never buy the quality to be in it.
Yeah.
The last quality player that Spurs have bought that have been a Champions League quality, I would probably say was Toby Alderweireld and Romero recently.
Yeah.
But Romero wasn't hard. Let's be honest, he didn't have to scout Romero. Everyone in Europe knew who Romero was. Right? Where with Toby Alderweireld, it was a bit more, you know, we didn't really scout him. Southampton did, and we kind of went, oh, he's good. kind of scenario. So
no, do you know what? Like that is right. Sorry, again, I'm cutting you off all the time, but like some of the points you're saying are like really key here, and I think you're incredibly accurate with that whole ENIC and Levy differential.
Yeah.
You know, and I think, you know, if I'm paraphrasing what I think you're saying, is that, you know, Levy is a little bit like Ed Woodward was at Manchester United, whereby financially astute, you know, knows what they're doing, but has zero football knowledge and shouldn't be anywhere near the footballing decisions within a football club.
And he still is. Jed Spence is a prime example, and I know we're going to talk about the Brighton game as well today, but I'm going to repeat this to everybody, right? The reason why Jed Spence is not playing is because if he comes in, you think about it like this, if he comes in and plays okay, he doesn't even need to play well. He just needs to be better than Royale, right? Which is not hard. Yeah? Not very hard, right? If he comes in and does okay, comes to January, say we're in the position now and we need that quality right back, and Conte goes, I need a quality right back, and the ball go to him. Well, Jed Spence did okay for you.
Right.
Why do you need one? Oh, actually, let's make another club signing for you. And he won't get the players he actually wants, because if we're looking at this, like, let's look at the teams, like the players he's playing. Why in the world is Bissouma not getting more minutes than he is? Especially in the Premier League. Champions League, I completely understand it. You know, if he said he's not quite up to tactical things. Admittedly, he came in against West Ham, didn't play very well, but he came on against Leicester and he changed the complete concept of that game.
Yeah.
But I'm starting to think, is Bissouma not a Conte signing either?
Right.
And it was...
Is it also that he doesn't want to play them, not because he doesn't like them, but because if he does play them, as you say, then there won't be another signing in that position. But if he plays Emerson Royale game after game after game after game, the board can suddenly realise, actually, we need a new player.
Because
right back.
This is going to sound really odd. Playing Emerson's not hurting Spurs. Yeah, we've lost two games. We've lost 2 games all season. Yeah, the football's not great, but I think that's down to other factors. It's just not Royale. I think you could put anybody at right back, and I still think our football would still general play will be the same. It's just the case of Conte. Yeah, as Frankie's just said, everyone's begging for 3-5-2, and I'd like to see 3-5-2 today, but actually he might not need to, because Brighton play exactly the same way.
Yeah.
So the 3-4-3 will probably work today, in the sense of we won't be overrunning midfield. But yeah, everyone's crying out for 3-5-2, but we still might come unstuck. I still don't think we would have beat Arsenal with it. I think we'd have been better equipped, but I don't think we'd have. It, like I said, it was a mental block, and it was just. But I don't understand if, you know, Leicester actually played really well against us, and 6-2 was not a representation of that game.
Yeah, definitely.
It was just the fact. Again, Spurs have something that most other teams don't have. We have 2 clinical finishers in Harry Kane and Son, and it's always going to change things. But you know, now that because Kulusevski's out, we're starting to see what a big impact he had on that front three. And I think we should have all seen that from when Lucas Moura was playing there with Son and Kane last year. Actually, Kulusevski makes that 3. If he's out, I think Frankie's right. We should go to a 3-5-2 and maybe put Højbjerg further forward like he does for Denmark.
Yeah. Yeah. No, definitely. And so last question on this Levy, ENIC, Conte signing type saga.
Yeah.
Because I'm really interested in this now, because actually it makes a lot of sense to me. And so let's say hypothetically Conte doesn't work out, okay?
Yeah.
The only thing that can happen at the end of that is Levy steps down.
Which he won't.
Yeah, but that's the only thing that could happen.
The only way Levy steps down, right, and he has an ego. He has an ego issue.
You know, because he'd still be part of the club.
Yeah.
He would still be getting paid.
Yeah. And this is the thing. This is what I've always said, because he's got shares in the club and everything like that. I just want to see a different chairman who comes in with a different idea. I look at Ted Bowley, right?
Yeah.
He's come straight into Chelsea, right? Let's take the brand of football that Spurs want to play. Graham Potter was muted before Nuno, right? And that was between him and Fonseca.
Yeah.
But Potter was going to cost £20 million. He didn't want to pay the £20 million. So he went tried to go to Fonseca, who was a free, because Roma had just sacked him. right? But Paratici, he employed Paratici, and Paratici was like, no, that's not the sort of manager I want. I can't work with him. Which again, these discussions should have happened when he knew he was bringing in Paratici. So it was kind of like the whole thing was a bit. So Paratici was like, he wanted Conte. Conte was like, I want this backroom staff. Levy said no. Apparently, didn't want to employ all them backroom staff. So he had no choice but to go under Nuno because Nuno didn't bring all his staff.
Yeah.
And this is what people don't realize. Nuno didn't have his full complement of staff. He had to compromise because Spurs were, for him, a big club. So again, we've tried to change the managers, and that's what we seem to be doing with every single man. We're changing them. And you're right. Like you said earlier, there comes a point. How many managers can we start blaming for failures on the pitch? And that's the only thing. A lot of people will go, but it's they're the ones picking the team, they're the ones. But if they've got clubs, if they got the club making signings for them, it'll be like me, right? You're asking for a blue biro, right? And I go, no, here's a black biro. You're going to have to work with it. It still does the exact same thing.
Yeah. But you got to make it blue.
But you got to make it work somehow, make people believe it's blue. And that's exactly what Spurs do. And we try and do things on the cheap. And I don't really get I think what Daniel Levy's biggest problem is with Spurs is Daniel Levy's not a risk taker.
Yeah.
Right?
No, he's calculated. Yeah.
He likes he likes to know that there's going to be money behind it. And that's not great for football. Football is one of them businesses you run and you go, how am I putting this so much money into it and I'm getting no reward in that sense? So you have to be a massive risk taker. And I believe sometimes that, like, I think I read yesterday that Spurs are updating their pitch or to do something to do with they're paying. There's a new technology that's come out and Spurs are going to pay so the pitch doesn't ruin or something like that helps the NFL pitch at the same time, right? He knows that he can put money over there and it's going to bring money in with the NFL.
Yeah.
But when it comes to probably signing, let's say for talking purposes, when Sadio Mane was walking in the training ground and Paul Mitchell wanted to sign him, and it was an extra £5 million that he wanted in wages, and we said no, and Liverpool came in, done what they did. The rest is history. And that's where I think our problem lies. And I just feel like we need a risk taker. Like everyone used to say, all Spurs fans used to say, we can't compare ourselves to Man City and Chelsea. And I always agreed. We cannot compare ourselves to them. But Manchester, it's only Manchester City now. You look at the business that Chelsea had done in the summer. You're telling me that Spurs couldn't do that business either? Or they didn't want to? Because it seems like, and I'll tell you what came out, and I think a lot of people didn't realize, because we all thought Daniel Levy had stepped away from the football side of things.
Yeah.
But the Jed Spence signing all opened our eyes to what. So it's Paratici will go out and do the negotiating. He'll get all the negotiation. Yeah. He pushes it to Levy. Levy does the money part. So he's still inside. He still has a massive say on the football. So it's swings and roundabouts, and that's all it is. We can't take more into it. Only us fans can get Levy out if we want him out at the end of the day, because you saw what happened against Manchester United. Yeah. Once they turned on him, the manager was sacked. And actually, he allowed Conte to have his 6 coaches that he wanted.
Yeah.
But and rest in peace, one of his coaches at the moment as well. Course, of course. But it's little things like that. And as Spurs fans, do we want the entertainment or do we want the trophies? And at the moment, you can tell that if you look at our last 3 managers now, Mourinho, Nuno, even Mason and Conte, they all play a similar way. And if people are going, we want entertaining football, but who's employed the last 3 managers to play the exact same way?
Yeah.
So, and this is where you got to look at the little things like that. And I love the fact that Spurs as a business can function. I love the fact that, it's good to know that we're financially secure and all that. But it'd be nice to have some trophies to back us. It would. I'm sorry.
Definitely.
I would take 200 million out of the club right now if we let 200 million pound less, and we were valued 200 million pound less, but we had 2 FA Cups and 1 League Cup. I'd be more than happy.
Yeah, but that's the thing that is interesting, right? Is because yes, it would cost maybe that kind of money to do it, and you say you're taking that money out of the club, but actually, in my opinion, it makes the club more valuable.
And this is the bit I don't get, and this is sometimes why I don't get Levy, because Something like that. If we were winning cups and trophies, could you imagine how valuable the club would be? And that's where I do give him credit. I actually do give him credit to make. He's made the club this valuable, and we win. We win nothing to go with it. So that's where you have to give him credit. So if we were to start winning stuff, yes, and I always look at it. We're not going to win the trophies that Man City are winning. Yeah, so you have to look at all the other trophies. Now, our biggest problem, and this is where it goes to mentality again. If you look at all the FA Cup runs that we've had, right? Every team that's not been outside the top 6 that we've been knocked out by, Spurs should not be getting knocked out by them. Full stop.
Yeah.
But if we've been stopped anywhere in a cup run, anytime we've had to play a top 6 side, what we call the so-called top 6 side in a cup, we've lost. Apart from one, Manchester City in the Champions League.
Yeah.
Only time we've ever gone through. And that's been 21 years under ENIC. I went back and looked because I was like, this is really bad. And only one time we've managed to beat anyone in the top 6.
Apart from Chelsea in the cup final.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
So, and we won it. We had to win it. But
exactly.
But again, and that's how you got to look at it. How can we? That's where we're poor. Again, a mentality thing.
Yeah, no, it's crazy. It's crazy.
It's crazy.
I could talk honestly all day about this because honestly, that's probably the most articulate answer in terms of Levy out but not ENIC out and finance that I've ever spoken to anyone about. So props to that because honestly, like that's probably a perfect analogy to how my mind's going now. Because as you say,
this is the thing. I've got nothing against Levy in, Levy out people, and I know people that are far this way and far that way. But I listen to both sides, and I'm not going to sit there and go, if you're Levy in, you're Levy in. That's your prerogative. At the end of the day, you pay your money to go watch Spurs. If you think what's going on at the club is right, that is completely up to you. But I'm totally the opposite. I'm like, unless I'm given a ticket or someone wants me to go, I refuse to pay to go see Tottenham now.
Yeah.
I've been offered a season ticket for the last 4 or 5 years, but until Levy's gone, I'm not buying one. And it's not about putting money in the club or anything like that, because I still will go and buy the kits and stuff sometimes.
Yeah.
But it's a case of I'd rather spend time with my family than go watch Daniel Levy's Tottenham. And that's how I look at it. But Tottenham is still my team. Spurs is still my club. Does that mean I'm less of a supporter? No. I'm going to love Spurs no matter what. But there are priorities that I feel like the last 4 or 5 years, and I'll go back to this. If you want Champions League football, give me a Champions League team and I'll pay for it.
Yeah. No, I agree. Definitely. Hallelujah to that. I think that's spot on. Anyway, let's go back to Arsenal a second.
Yes.
There are two key moments in that game. So obviously, let's not go into too much detail about the, worldie from Thomas Partey, shouldn't even be playing. Harry Kane penalty. Harry Kane will always score a penalty or score a goal in the North London derby. But the two turning points for me are the second goal and the sending off, which completely changed the game. Okay, Arsenal were all over us. I'm not denying that, and I never said before the game that wouldn't happen. Right? I always said Arsenal will take us on the front foot. We will sit back. We will try and soak it up. And there was ample space for us to counter-attack. There seems to be a big problem with Spurs at the moment in terms of controlling the ball, right? Which sounds bizarre.
Yeah.
But when we burst out of defence and try and counter-attack, for some bizarre reason this season, our front three and some of the midfield have a problem with being able to control the ball and start a fast counter-attack. Now, anyway, going back to the key moments in the game, like Hugo Lloris has been a servant for Spurs for a very, very, very long time. But this isn't the first time that he's made an error like that.
No.
What can you put it down to?
So, I'm a big advocate for Lloris. Always have been. I remember when there was a Twitter spat going around when Gazaniga went in goal, and I was like, you people are seriously not well if you think Gazaniga was better than Lloris. Last week was the first time I've ever given up on Lloris, where I've gone, we need to replace him. The mistakes are now becoming more and more frequent. I always used to say, and I have this argument with my mate all the time, Lloris used to only make mistakes in games that we won. And they'd be high-profile mistakes as well, but we always got away with it. Last week was the first time he's made a mistake where it's completely cost us and the whole game's gone. Like, he's never been great in North London derbies, full stop. I've always felt like he's had I remember when Sanchez scored an equaliser against them and it bobbled over him, and a lot of people didn't blame Lloris that day, but I did, and I love Lloris. I think he's a great goalkeeper, but the mistakes are becoming more and more and more frequent, and I'm very, very, and again, this comes down to the summer. Lloris should have been replaced in the summer, and we should have gone all out for a goalkeeper. And now people go, "What? We could have gone for someone like Nick Pope. Forget the England, what he did for England. Look at what he's doing for Newcastle.
Even Dean Henderson from Man United.
Dean Henderson. Whether they would have sold him to us is another question because we're seen as a rival. But Dean Henderson, why are we not looking at him? I heard that we're rumoured to be getting Oblak from Atletico Madrid. Not sure how true that is, but again, that should be the goalkeepers we should be going after. We should be going after top class keepers. And do you know what? This is going to sound really weird, but when Fraser Forster was being linked to playing that North London derby last week, I was actually quite excited about it.
Well, Dave on our show, he reckons that they signed Foster to replace Lloris.
Well, they're the same age, aren't they? So I think Foster's might be a bit older.
1 year younger, or I think actually Foster's 1 year younger. But
there's not much between them. But Forster is a good goalkeeper on his day. But again, he makes high profile. He's exactly like he makes high profile mistakes. But actually, if you look at Southampton, right? I always said to Southampton, their biggest problem was the reason why they was always fighting relegation was because they always Forster was never in this. Forster was always relegated to the bench. And I said, he's your best goalkeeper. He's better than Alex McCarthy, right? When they had him in goal permanently, they were finishing mid-table. As soon as they dropped him, fighting relegation every year. And then there was a period last year or the year before where they put him in goal and they beat Liverpool as well.
Yeah.
They suddenly went from the bottom of the table to mid-table again. And I was just thinking, I can't believe they can't see this. He's actually quite a decent goalkeeper. And he's probably one of the second best goalkeeper that we've probably got. And we've probably got the best second goalkeeper. If you look at all the teams in the Premier League, Forster is a very good goalkeeper. And I can't wait to see him in the Cup. I really can't, because I think a lot of people might be calling for him to come in and to take Lloris's spot.
Well, a lot of Arsenal fans were scared when they thought Forster was going to be in goal.
Because he had two good games against them last year. Because even at the Emirates, he had a good game. I know Southampton lost, but he was making save after save after save. And I think if it weren't for him, it could have been 6 or 7. So he's not, again, he's got mistakes in him like every other goalkeeper, but it is what it is. But the Arsenal game, to be honest, I think we could look at it any other way. And they only opened us up twice, which was Jesus' goal and Jesus' run, not his goal, and their third goal. Third goal was caused to, there was no one at right back. So we were all over the place. But they were just a better side, and you just have to take your hats off to it and go. But the strangest fact that came out of last week was, did you know we were a lot worse last week than we were under Nuno?
Were we?
Possession-wise, shots on target, everything like that, we were worse last week. And it looked like it.
Yeah, last two questions. A, what is Emerson Royale doing? And I still think it was a harsh sending off based on where the action took place, as I don't believe it was a malicious act. And the ball, but I understand why it's a sending off, but I still don't believe that it's a right sending off, in my opinion, based on where the action took place and the various factors that survive around that. But also, what is Conte doing in terms of just parking the bus and throwing the towel in against Arsenal with this sub?
So I can give you an answer to that. The whole, I totally agree with you. It was probably a yellow card. We've seen worse challenges been only booked for, but it's a blessing in disguise, isn't it? Let's be real. Yeah. I think wasn't all Spurs fans saying, can we appeal it and get him a 4-game ban? So that's where we're at with it. It was probably, I think, even though I thought Anthony Taylor was wrong and I thought he didn't referee the game very, very well, and he was, when I saw Anthony Taylor was going to referee the game, especially after the Chelsea game, you knew it was game over, because he had, everyone would have been thinking he was a Spurs fan. But I'm not surprised. And actually, Anthony Taylor might have done us a massive favour. These next 3 games, Premier League games, we're actually going to see how good Royale makes this team.
Yeah.
Because I give you one scenario. everyone was saying, "Oh, anyone at right back would be better than Royale." No one's asked for Perisic to go right back again.
Yeah.
So, and it's kind of like that's where we're at. But yeah, regarding throwing in the towel, this is the biggest issue. We had an important game on Tuesday. Arsenal never.
Yeah.
It was game over for us. We were down to 10 men. Do you honestly think if he would have thrown the towel at it, do you think we would have got an equaliser, or do you think it would have been 4 or 5?
No, probably would have been 4 or 5. But that's what I'm. But my mind is saying, would I rather we lost 4 or 5, and we gave it a go, and we fought like a North London derby, but were the players fighting from minute 1? It's really difficult, isn't it? Like Conte, I'm definitely not Conte outright before anybody slanders me, but there are certain things that he does that frustrate me more than anything. I heard at the start of this season that that we are having an Antonio Conte full preseason. Okay, not full squad that he wants, but there's 6 signings in the squad, 7 signings in total. There's a lot of things that happened at the club that had never really happened before. We were getting all of this happening. Okay, right. It's not all doom and gloom. We're like, what, 3rd, 4th in the league at the moment. Only 1 loss. Arsenal's lost a game as well. But there's certain parts of him that we have not played at all, anything like we were playing last season. And that's the only part of it that worries me.
Well, Son and Kane haven't turned up. Let's be honest. Kane. When was the last time we saw this season Kane run a game? Where's the last? He hasn't had a Man City game yet where he's run the show. Kane's been awful. It's just lucky we've had him scoring goals. Son, not been at the races. I think last season took a lot out of him, and I think you got to remember Kane only turned up for half the season last year. So where Son we were relying on the whole season, and even he had a blip. But I think this is his blip. So when your 2 best players are not performing, you're relying on the rest of the team. The rest of the team are not quality, are not champion. Apart from, I like Bentancur. I think he's probably Champions League level, and Kulusevski's been in and out. Richarlison, I think for us, we just need to keep him coming on in games, not start him every week. And if he's going to start, he needs to play on the left. He's more better when he comes in off the left. So if that means changing Son to the right, maybe that will help Son out. But yeah, like I said to you earlier, you can't go for that game when we had a Champions League game on Tuesday, which is more important than a Europa League game on Thursday. It's the whole reason why we beat Arsenal to 4th spot last year. Arsenal would have done exactly the same thing if they had a game on Tuesday.
Yeah.
If they had a game on Tuesday instead of the Europa League where they're going to play their 2nd string, completely different game. And that's what's going to happen now. You have to use your squad if you're a Champions League team, and games like this will get away from us, because if we had a game on Thursday, I think it would have been a totally different result, because Arteta would have had to think about Tuesday, not about who's going to be playing. And that's why he could play Thomas Partey from the start. That's why he could play Zinchenko from the start, who were both injured.
Yeah.
Didn't play the full 90, but if you want Champions League football, you're going to get games like last Saturday where he goes, Tuesday's now become more important. And that's what he thought of. And if you look at how Tuesday went, it was the right decision.
Yeah, let's go. That's a good segue, actually. Let's go on to Frankfurt game. It's like you've done this before. So Frankie, who's one of our hosts on the channel, he's in the chat, texted me after the game and has been a little bit vocal on Twitter, saying that he believes that Tuesday night was our best performance of the season as a team. Right? Yeah. Now, myself, I think it was, again, lackluster. I think that as a defensive unit, they were good. I feel like as an attacking unit, again, weren't at the races. And I feel like sometimes it's either one or it's the other. Like we look at Leicester, right? Pretty poor defensively, conceded twice, but scored 6. It's... I don't know. What are your thoughts on the Frankfurt game? Frankfurt, let's be honest, they won the Europa League last season, beat West Ham, beat Rangers. They did pretty well. Okay, but this group should be a group that we should have maximum points, in my opinion, without a shadow of a doubt. Right now, we should be sitting there top of the group, maximum points. What do you think, first of all, about it was our best game of the season, yet we drew 0-0? And B, what were your overall
thoughts on the game.
Frank is just taking the words out of my mouth. So I believe a conversation needs to happen about man that's just above your head on that scarf. Right? You sat there and said you think we should be top of this group. But I said something to you earlier, right? And this is where I'm going to take it. We don't have a Champions League quality team. Actually, we're sitting exactly where our transfer window has put us. And that's the biggest problem. And actually, I agree. Defensively and in the midfield, I thought we looked a lot better.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say it probably was our best performance, as in that part of it. But our front three need to be questioned. And they need to be questioned because it's not like we didn't create chances. They had chances. And they just wasn't. Son had 2 chances that most days, if it was against Leicester, he'd put it in the back of the net. Harry Kane, these Champions League games, has he been anywhere near the level of what we call as a world-class striker?
No,
and
no,
he's
100% not.
And this is the issue. If Harry Kane's getting away with a lot at the moment, and
do you know what it's from? It's because he has at least scored a few goals at the start of the season.
Yes, and he's only scored in the Premier League, so that's why I've said I'm not questioning him in the Premier League. I said he hasn't played well, but I'm not going to question his Premier League form. I'm questioning him in the Champions League because if he's that world-class player that we're all talking about, yes, you're absolutely right. He should be controlling games against Frankfurt, Sporting Lisbon, and Marseille. Yeah. But he hasn't. He's not been at the races. You think the Marseille game, if they never had a player sent off, that was probably going to finish 0-0.
Yeah, definitely. You know, when you mentioned about Harry Kane, actually, just then, reminds me of, you know, games against Barcelona, Son against Borussia Dortmund, you know, Son against Man City, you know, where they step up to these, you know, really big challenges, these big nights, this big club mentality that the players should have and that we need and we rely on from these players. Because let's be honest, who else is going to score the goals? Because if those two aren't,
everyone's quick to be blaming Son, and with the Premier League form and everything like, and the way he's been playing in the Champions League, but no one's questioned Kane. And even for England, Kane's not been brilliant. At the end of the day, I hold Kane on a different level to every other player. Yeah. If you're going to sit there and tell me he's world class, I expect a level of performance. But actually, in the Champions League, he's not been our best player. He hasn't. He's been nowhere near the levels that we expect. Like you just said, the games against Dortmund in the league group stage and then Dortmund in the quarters, where Kane was controlling and running games. When he played the Conference League last year, you knew he was too good for that level. But he's got to this Champions League, and we're thinking, come on, do something. And he hasn't stepped up, and it's really, really, I can't believe he's getting away with it. That's
because I think
games
statistically,
now.
if you look at him in the Premier League,
he's
compared to the likes of Haaland, he's been brilliant, right? But then you look at him statistically in other games, as you say, you know, Champions League, and he's been no better than Mitrovic would be. You know what I mean?
So Richarlison's the only player to score for us in the Champions League. I'm pretty sure Kane didn't set up any of the goals. I'm pretty one of them was from Højbjerg and one of them was from, I can't remember the other Perisic. So he didn't set up any of them. So he's getting no assist either. And if he's going to go by stats, and then I'm thinking, did he play any through passes? I can't remember him dropping in deep, because that's what he happens to Kane. And I'm just like, but we're not questioning him. Yeah. And it gets to a point where you go, we have to. He's not the Kane of old. Am I being too harsh on him? Is the other question.
I don't think so. No, I don't think so. Look, I would never have thought that was the way you were going to go. Yeah. But again, I'm very open to all suggestions, right? And when we talk about it in a proper manner and a strategic way, actually, you're 100% correct.
Because I was having this argument I was in the comments on Irish Hotspur. Me and him was agreeing. I said we and him actually come to in the end. We had to agree to disagree because he was like, Kane had the better hold up play. Kane did this. Kane did that, and it was the best out the front three on Tuesday. Okay, but the front three were terrible. Yeah, that would be like me going, you know what? I'm not performing, but I was the best out of the three. Do I still deserve the praise? Like that? Am I still getting a 4 or 5 out of 10? Because I got the 4 or 5 out of 10. Yeah, does that mean I get to? I don't get criticism. Yes, I do. It doesn't, because the other two have been free. It doesn't mean
I agree. Yeah.
So
it's like coming in the last three in a running race, and you go, well, actually, I beat you guys. So
I beat you guys. So it's fine. Yeah.
Why
I
are
don't
people
have to worry about the rest
for that? Yeah.
So so this is where I completely agree with Frankie in the sense of defensively, I was very impressed. I'm not a big Dyer fan, but I thought he played really well. I think the England call-up done his confidence the world of good, even though I still think he's not one of the best. But again, Conte loves him, so you just got to go with it. But yeah, we wasn't Langley. He's been a bit of a godsend, isn't he?
Yeah,
he's actually stepping up, and
especially with Ben Davies being out as well.
Yeah, he seems to like he was the only person who came out of last week at the Emirates with his head held high. Yeah, there was a couple of occasions that he could have done better, but actually, as an overall performance, he probably was one of the decent players on that pitch that day.
And I think when you're under constant pressure as well, like you would have been at the Emirates, like you're about there, you're not going to have a 10 out of 10 performance.
Yeah, I totally agree. And then on Tuesday, I thought he was the best player, one of the best players on the pitch again. I thought Højbjerg and Bentancur played okay, but yeah, it was just going forward. Royale actually wasn't the worst player on the pitch on Tuesday.
No, do you know what? He had a couple of moments, didn't he, early on?
Which surprised us all.
Yeah, where he did surprise us. Maybe maybe it's fighting mentality. Maybe it's to say, do you know what? I cost you because at 2-1 when he gets sent off, anybody can say, it's they're beating us 2-1. They've had more shots, more chances, more possession, all the rest of it. But in a North London derby, there's still a chance. Yeah. As soon as he gets sent off, pretty much throws the game away. Yeah. And I think you're right. I think he came out like a rocket, and I think that. He was a lot better.
With Royale, I think we all know he's just not good enough. No. He's not good enough to be our right back, and he wasn't good enough last year. However, as a guy as someone that we don't want, he tries really hard, and unfortunately, trying hard is not sometimes. He's just not the level.
No. But for me, I want to see whether we get beat or whatever. Right? If the team tries hard and it's as bullshit as it sounds, right? If the team try hard and the team fight and the team want to win, but we lose, I'm happy with that. It sounds crazy, right? But I am at least happy with that. When we go into some games and we don't even try and we get beat, what is the point in even turning up?
No, true. Because you look at the Chelsea game, that's probably a game where we tried, we got absolutely smashed, and actually we robbed the place. we robbed it blind. So it is what it is. I completely understand what you're saying. But for me, I'm in the Conte camp at the moment where it's not about performances, it's about results. If we'd played well at the Emirates last week, I'd have been my mentality's changed. My mentality's changed since this is where my mentality's at now. It's not about performance anymore. It's about getting the results. Because if we can't even turn up at the Emirates, I don't care about performances anymore. We've done, the game's gone. It's embarrassing. It's about getting results, and if that's the way we have to push going forward, I know it's going to be boring for a lot of Spurs fans, but I want to see a trophy. I want that day out. I want to be able to go, we won a cup.
So here, before we move on to Brighton today, last question on this, right? What are your thoughts on people calling Spurs football under Antonio Conte prehistoric and reminding them of Jose Mourinho?
So I said from the beginning that it's Jose and Nuno football, but with more running.
Right, yeah.
That's all it is. And if you run more, you do exactly what happened last year. You will create chances. You will make the other team make mistakes. The problem is Jose and Spurs was a disaster from the beginning. There was a lot of, it was never the person we want. And Jose was probably, I don't want to say past it, because obviously if Roma are in a title race this year, because they're doing really well, at the end of the day, our board's going to look bad if Jose goes and wins this, Serie A. Serie A. If he goes and wins Serie A, our board's going to look bad, right? And before people go, the Italian league, the French league, and all that's a farmers league. No, the Premier League's a farmers league at the moment, because Haaland is showing it's a farmers league. Yeah, the Premier League, and with Man City winning it every year, the Premier League, and we need to look at this, is the farmers league. The fact and that's the way it is. And then the fact is, you can look at the league and all that. Until we start winning, the English teams start winning the Champions League on a regular basis, then we can start going these other leagues. But at the end of the day, Haaland's come from the German league, and look what he's doing for Man City. Yeah, we've got to open our eyes, as a Premier League and go no. But yeah, it's a hard one. It's a hard one. But you just have to get through the games at the moment, and with Conte, and I don't think it's prehistoric. If you gave Conte the players he actually wanted, like the Bastonis that he wanted, and if I believe he wanted a right back, but got told if we sold Royale, he was only going to have Spence and Doherty. And Doherty was injured at the time. So he would have been left with just Spence. And at the end of the day, you're going to keep Royale because you know Royale. It's better the devil you know, as they say. You're on mute.
Oh, no, I agree.
Yeah.
Right, let's move on. Before we touch on Brighton, obviously you mentioned it earlier, the sad passing of fitness coach. I may not get his name right, but I'm going to try it anyway. Piero Ventrone. I won't go into it too much, but obviously it's devastating news for the club and devastating news for a lot of the players at Spurs.
The players...
who really did respect him, and Heung-min Son especially. I've seen really good videos with those two together, and Harry Kane, and even Matt Doherty.
You can tell just one thing, and this is a telling factor. This is how great that man was with them players. Every single one of them put something on their social media about him. They didn't have to. They didn't have to go. Their media teams didn't have to do it, but it was the words they all put.
Yeah,
and you have to sit there and go, "Oh my god!" And you can, what? I can't even imagine what Conte is feeling right now.
Yeah,
he's going to be saying this game's for him today, and it should be. I think the players wanted it for him, and the only thing that worries me again is whenever Spurs try and do something for someone who's died at the club, we never go on and win that game. So I'm a bit apprehensive about that. But at the same time, just the fact the way every single person was on social media, like you can always tell when a player has a good relationship. When Mourinho left for talking purposes, I know it's a bit different, but everyone wasn't speaking highly of him on their social media channels. A lot of him, thank God he's gone and stuff like that. But even if someone dies at the club, if somebody don't like it, they won't generally they'll put a short little notice and that be it. But every single one of them put these long part essays, and you actually started to see what the impact he had. So, again, good for the players to be playing today because they could have got it called off.
Yeah.
They could have got it called off. They probably all went, no, we want to play for him because that's probably what he would have wanted. But just today, I feel like as a fan base, lay off Conte. He's not going to be thinking straight. Some of his decisions today, he's going to have that in the back of his mind. And there's a lot of games to turn around. So he hasn't had time to grieve. He won't have time to grieve.
No,
Conte's known this man for a very, very long time, and I can't speak for him, but I think it's going to play a lot into what goes on today, and it's just going to be it's a grieving man right now who still has to do his day-to-day job.
Yeah, no, 100%. I think you're right, and I think that respect to every single person at the club that has put those personalised messages and everything, because it's not easy for anybody to lose anyone, especially somebody who you have a close relationship with, who is not only an employee at the football club but also a friend to some of these people. And I think that no one will probably see this, right? But it's nice to say, and we really do wish everybody, the club and in his family, the best, because it's an awful time. But let's move on to today's game, and that's it, really, isn't it? This is going to be one that hopefully will show fight, show passion, show effort, show everything that we desire, and he will desire out of them. Hopefully, they run their absolute socks off, and they can hear his voice in the background as they're running up and down the pitch.
Yeah.
But a key part of today's game will be right back or right wing back position. Is it Perisic's? Do you think today, after the comments in the last few weeks about Spence and also Doherty, Do you think Perisic is the one that's going to end up playing right wing back?
I think it'll be Doherty today.
I
think we'll see him back, and I think they'll just take the risk because Real can play in the Champions League. So
yeah,
if something happens to Doherty this week, they can put Perisic next week at right back. The only thing Spurs need to get right today and going forward, they just need to learn how to pass to each other. That is it. If you look, if you go back to the Arsenal game, how many times have we opened them up, but that final pass just didn't go where it was meant to Richarlison, to Kane, to Son.
I can still remember Son through the middle and Richarlison to his right.
So that's all they need to get right. Everything else is there. The defensive way we're defending is there. The way we're pressing is there, even though we've probably not seen it to its full. It's just when we have the ball, let's find our man and find them key passes. Once we fix that, it will change the whole concept of what's been going on about.
So, with a Brighton team who do like to control midfield, which are well known even when Basuma was there, Frankie is gone as he thinks. I know you don't think we will go with this today, but this is what he believes should be the team with a 3 in midfield of Bentancur, Basuma, and Højbjerg.
Yeah, I think he might go with Basuma because one thing that Conte has shown by playing Spence, he likes to play them against their old clubs.
Oh yeah, it's a good point actually. I didn't even think about that.
Yeah. To say it there, everyone go, he sits there and hates Spence. He didn't have to do that day. No. He knew in the back of his mind he was bringing on Spence to say goodbye to the Forest fans because he never got to, and what he had done for them. And Spence, he'd never picked Spence in the squads up until that moment. And you have to go. Conte does have a heart. So when he says he's not good enough, I kind of believe him. I do kind of believe him. But I agree. I think Bentancur might get the nod. Basuma might get the nod today. And it'll be interesting. But I'm not sure. I'm not sure about. I don't think Perisic will play. I think Cess will.
What's your thoughts on that? Why is that?
The pace.
How you think it's going to go? Right. Okay.
I think it's going to be more for pace, just in case we are, because Brighton are going to be very much wanting the ball, and so for pace wise, I think he might go for Cess, especially if Doherty's going to be playing right wing back, because I think his ideal 2 is Cess and Doherty. Those are his ideal 2. If he's at who he's got in the squad, he might as well just go for it, because if anything, if it doesn't work, at the end of the day, it's Brighton. They are fourth, and it doesn't matter again if something goes wrong. He's got a Champions League game to think about on Wednesday. Yeah, and it's just kind of, so I think he might change it up slightly, only slightly, but we'll see. We will see. I've got a strange feeling he might bring Ben Davies back over Lenglet.
Okay. Is he back fit?
Apparently, I think he was on the bench. He came on Tuesday. I think he came on Tuesday. Yeah. So I think he's fit enough to. I think he might play him today for a Premier League game, and Lenglet will get the Champions League game.
Right.
That's what I think he might. I think he might rotate like that.
Okay. So it's going to be definitely.
Or I don't think Dyer is 100% fit from rumours in the week as well.
Okay, yeah.
So he might think about let me see which one.
Because he got injured early on, then played the whole game, didn't he?
Yeah. So Lenglet will come on for either one of them in today's game.
So let's say if Dyer's not fit, who's your best central midfield player? Defensive player. Sorry.
I personally would probably put Ben Davies in there. I'm not sure. I've got no reason behind it. Just because I don't. Romero and Sanchez are too hot-headed to play central. Yeah, and we saw that with Romero in those 2 games last year against Wolves and Southampton.
Yeah,
where he did play central. And he's too hot-headed to control. So you can't put one of those 2 there. Lenglet, possibly, he might be the answer. But I like Lenglet at left centre-back, so probably that's why I'm saying it. I just think Ben Davies could do a job there. He's not pacey. He's been around the block. And he probably, he can pass the ball. And we don't need any more than that, because that's all Dyer is. So, and he can read the game, but Ben Davies can read the game well. And he's, so he's not the greatest, but I'd probably move him into central and put Lenglet out left. But I think Dyer will start, but I think it will be determined on how long can him and Davies last.
Yeah. Okay, nice. Right. So anybody that's still watching, we'll now go with our score predictions for the game. So if you are watching and you want to get your score predictions in, make sure you do. Frankie's the only one that's ever talking, which is lovely to see. What's he said now? Davis, Langley, Romero is no Dyer. He is apparently available for the selection, though, apparently.
Yeah, he's available for selection. So that's why I think that he will start with Davis and Dyer to see which one so he can bring on Langley later, because that's the last thing you want is both of them to completely go.
Yeah.
so I think he will go with that scenario.
Perfect. Right. So the all-important score predictions time. Do you think, first of all, do you think Spurs will win today? It's a tough game away at Brighton. You don't think we'll win?
Nope. We've only won one away game this season, I believe.
Right.
So he's not looking good.
Time to break tradition, as I always say.
The thing is, right, I've sat here and said we're not a Champions League quality side. We're not this. I don't think we're good enough for this. I can't sit there and then be very positive about the result if I'm not feeling positive about the team right now.
Yeah.
I know a lot of people are going what they did to Liverpool last week, but that might take a lot out of them. I just got a feeling that we might go 1-0 up and they will score in the last 10 minutes. I've got 1-0 for some reason. And again, it's not a terrible result, especially if Brighton play well. It's not a terrible result. I know it'd be the end of the world for us Spurs fans if we did. But yeah, I can't. The only reason why I could see us winning today, if I'm being completely honest, the only reason I could see us winning is because they've still got the new manager.
Yeah.
And he still hasn't brought his ideas across.
Do you know what, though? It's interesting, isn't it? Because it's one of those transitions that has gone relatively smoothly from a change of manager. If you look at results since...
But he hasn't worked in the training ground for that long. So there's always a case of, in the first game, you always end up playing the way your old manager did. Yeah. We did, under Conte, our first game. We played like it was Nuno, but we run more. So it was always going to work. And we've not really changed much. But yeah, it's... if Sanchez has one of his games, not our Sanchez, their Sanchez, then I think we'll score. I think Frankie could be right, 3-1. But for me, if Sanchez doesn't have one of these games, I can't see where our creativity is coming from. Even if we play 3-5-2, you're expecting Højbjerg and Pentacle to be our creative players. Because Kane hasn't been at it either. It depends if Kane turns up. If Kane turns up, then 4-5. But again, him and Son haven't been the greatest. So why am I expecting anything different today? Yeah. So I'm going for 1-0, unfortunately.
Oh, what an anticlimax. Do you know what? I'll save everyone and I'll go with a cheeky 1-0. I don't see it. I don't see it being a free-flowing attacking football. I think they will break us down a lot. I think they'll try and stifle us. I think that
it won't be like it was at Tottenham Hotspur Stadium last year. It will be like how when we went to Brighton last year, we won 2-0 with Harry Kane kicking the Coke bottle. I think it'd be very, very similar to that game, and we didn't play that bad. Like everyone always forgets, Brighton will have to attack us at home. Their fans won't accept anything less. But when they're away from home, they will accept how they played against us. So that's one thing we don't need to worry about. They're not great. They're not great at home. They're not the greatest. But it's down to Spurs. Only Spurs will be our own enemy.
And only time will tell, indeed. Well, Look, that kind of brings us to a close. So, Marlon, again, you've been absolutely incredible today. Like, not only stepping in at the last minute and helping us out, but also some of your insights in terms of the club, in terms of how we've played and everything else. If anyone's watching, they haven't watched the whole video, like, go all the way back to the start, because some of the things you've talked about have opened my mind to specific ideas that actually are really, really interesting. And, being able to split Levy and Enoch as a pair was a really good part, and I enjoyed that. So tell everybody how they can follow you, because honestly, everyone should go and follow you and watch your shows and subscribe to your channel and everything else. So please.
So I've got my Twitter handle in my page now, so as you can see, it's at Southview Quiz. We're the same on Instagram, I think. I'm not really great at Instagram, so I'm just going to say, it is, you'll find us. But if you actually want to come over and subscribe to the channel, it's a view from the South Stand TV. There's me and one other guy. We do match reactions after the game. So if you're around 7:30 tonight, you will be doing a match reaction to Brighton. We do one every match day, either at 10 o'clock during the midweek or 7:30 on a Saturday or Sunday, depending on when Spurs play. I have different guests. It's never the same, so you get different point of views. As I had on Tuesday, if you watch Tuesday's show, it was quite funny. There was 3 guests on, 3 different opinions, and 3 different man of the matches. It was absolutely funny, and I sat there watching it, even though the other guy was presenting, and I was like, that was probably the perfect game where you would have said every Spurs fan was different. But yeah, A View from the South Stand TV, come over. It's a good watch. And as always, make sure you subscribe to this channel as well. Luke's a good host, and he's got 2 other ones that are good as well. So there we go.
Thank you very much. And just for everyone, it's A View from the South Stand.
Yeah.
Perfect. Excellent. Everybody get tuning in. I'll chuck it all in the bio after the show, and you can all check it out. So no, thank you very, very much for coming on. I really appreciate it. Obviously, you know where we are because you're watching the video. But if you're new, it's Park Lane Podcast on YouTube, Park Lane Pod on Instagram. Again, we're rubbish at that, but we'll try. And Twitter, so Park Lane Pod. Yeah, you know where to find us. We're back every Saturday morning at 11 o'clock. And we really appreciate all your support. Big day for Spurs today. Let's hope we get back to winning ways. And thank you once again for tuning in. Come on, you Spurs.
Come on, you Spurs.